Hi everyone, this is Teng. I'm a PhD candidate from University of Michigan at Arbor. I'm very happy to share our work on promoting worker performance with human-centered data science. Promoting worker performance is critical given the large amount of labor force. In 2019, more than 60% of US population were employed. In the modern era, the large-scale and high-dimensional data about demographics, human behavior, and context provide both new challenges and new opportunities for us to study worker performance. To address these challenges, we propose a human-centered data science framework combining machine learning and causal inference, field experiment, and social science theories. In this talk, I will illustrate with 3 examples in both traditional settings such as government and the modern workforce such as the sharing economy. In study 1, we use machine learning to help prioritize government outreach to vulnerable tenants. In collaboration with New York City's government, we promote outreach specialist performance by predicting human behavior. New York City has implemented rent stabilization policies to restrict the rate at which the rent can be increased every year. However, some landlords want to use legal loopholes to circumvent the rent control and increase the rent by illegally forcing the tenants out. This is referred to as rental harassment. To help with rental harassment, New York City's mayor's office established a tenant support unit to proactively outreach to tenants. They go across the cities and knock on doors to identify potential harassment. However, the task is daunting given there are too many rental units and only 26 TSU specialists. So it's very important for them to know which buildings are at high risk of high-end harassment so that they can prioritize their outreach to these buildings. This is where we can help. We formulate this problem as a binary classification, and we would like to understand by learning from the historical harassment cases, can we predict will there be any cases of harassment in a given building in the next month? The results show that we are able to identify 59% more buildings associated with harassment than the TSU's current outreach baseline, which means knocking on the same number of doors, TSU specialists can identify 590 more buildings with harassment using our model. While the results are promising, in fact, to understand whether a model or a new intervention is effective, we need to conduct field trials. So we'll use 2 examples in the sharing economy to show how to leverage field experiment and nuanced experiment analysis to promote worker performance. Millions of workers have participated into the sharing economy. The work is flexible and low barrier. However, the workers almost always work alone, and they suffer from a lack of social bonds, organization identity, and a sense of achievement. These pain points lead to a lack of worker engagement and high attrition rate. So it's very important for the platform to understand how to retain and incentivize workers. To solve this problem, my collaborators have worked with DiDi, a leading ride-sharing economy platform, and proposed a solution based on short-term rewarded team contests. There are basically 2 steps in this solution. First, they help drivers to form teams, which gave them a team identity. And then they engage the teams into short-term rewarded contests. This solution turns to be very successful, and DiDi has launched more than 1,000 context experiments with different designs and involved more than 1 million drivers into these contests. The return on investment is also very high. While the team contests are generally successful, it has some problem. For example, teams are dismissed right after the contest, which is a waste of team identity. It also has high costs because every short-term contest provides monetary rewards. Another problem is about the heterogeneity. We find that the effect of contests varies a lot across different drivers, different teams, and contest designs. So it's very important for them to understand the heterogeneous treatment effect so that they can customize the contest design for different subpopulations in different contexts. So we're going to address these two problems in two different studies. In study 2, we leverage social science theory and design a new intervention and use field experiment to test the effectiveness of this intervention. Specifically, we leverage social identity theory, identity economics, and context theory, and propose to add a longer-term bonus-free contest after the short-term rewarded contest. We had 4 stages in our experiment. In stage 1, we recruit drivers and form teams. In stage 2, we call it a pre-intervention contest. This is a short-term rewarded contest as before. And stage 3 is our intervention stage. We call it a status contest. This lasts for 3 weeks with no monetary rewards. Specifically, we have 3 conditions. In treatment 1, teams are going to engage in a team leaderboard, and drivers can continue to receive team ranking and within team individual ranking. In treatment 2, the individual leaderboard condition, drivers will continue to receive within team individual ranking, and in control group, they will only receive individual performance with no ranking or social comparison information. To test whether our intervention has spillover effect, in the follow-up events, we add a post-intervention contest, which is set up exactly the same as stage 2. Our goal is to test whether our intervention can increase driver revenue in status contests and in the follow-up events. We also want to understand whether the intervention can increase driver retention after our experiment. The results are promising. We show that our intervention is able to increase driver revenue in status contests and post-intervention contests, and we are also surprised to see that our intervention can increase driver retention even until 3 months after our experiment. Next, let's unpack the heterogeneity of treatment effect. As we said before, DiDi has launched thousands of field experiments, which generate a large amount of data to train machine learning models. To better inform the models, we use social science theory to generate features. And our machine learning models are able to predict and explain the experiment outcome and to generate data-driven design for future field experiments. Again, from the data, we find that the effect of contests varies a lot across different drivers and teams and contest designs. And specifically, we would like to understand what type of drivers and teams benefit more from team contests. What contest designs better increase driver performance? And why does a design work in one city but not in another? To understand these problems, however, traditional experimental analysis is not enough because it cannot unpack the treatment effect at this finer granularity by analyzing large-scale and complex data. So we propose to predict and explain the individual treatment effect. Individual treatment effect refers to the revenue increase of a team driver compared to the solo drivers in the control group. To predict the individual treatment effect, we first need to estimate it. We deploy a difference in differences approach, which is commonly used causal inference method. And we collect more than 500 contests and construct more than 500 features leveraging social science theories. We select models that are easy to interpret the predictive power of features. We find that our best performing models are able to reduce the prediction error by more than 24.5%. By interpreting the models, we find some findings that are intuitive and some other findings that are directly actionable, such as contest design. To understand whether the findings are effective, we deploy a simulation analysis. We find that by varying no more than 3 choices to the ideal setting, the average effect of a real contest is expected to increase by as much as 26%. Taken together, in the first study, we show that we can promote worker performance by predicting human behavior. We also discussed that field trials can be deployed to examine the effectiveness of machine learning models. In study 2, we show that we can leverage social science theory to design new interventions and use field experiment to test whether the intervention is effective. In study 3, we further show that social science theory can help machine learning models by informing feature generation. And we can combine machine learning and causal inference to predict and explain experiment outcome. The interpretations of these models can help us design new experiments in the future. We also know that social science theories are able to describe, explain, and predict human behavior. Field experiments are commonly used to test and build social science theories. In the future, I would like to work on using machine learning and causal inference to test and build social science theory, and this concludes the framework of human-centered data science. Next, I would like to apply human-centered data science to further promote worker performance, and helping people have a better life and work is what I'm excited about. Thank you so much for your attention.